You know, we start early. We start early. I'm ready. Let's go. I don't care about timer. I just want to get started into stream. Yeah. Okay. I have minigame ideas. I need to also look and see. Yes, mic mute working. I have minigame ideas, and I put them, quick brainstorm for like 20 minutes of each of the concepts at heart. This is not, one of them is technically fully planned out. This is not fully planned out. We're going to mess with these a lot today, tonight, and tomorrow night. We're going to be working on the mechanics of these. So, Tuesday, we can be designing. And then Wednesday, Thursday, we can be building. And then hopefully Friday, we can be testing them on the actual server with some other members of the server. Let's move over to gameplay. There we go. So you can see I've already done something. I needed this for a thumbnail, but this is the general idea of the control room, so, you know, players can't see what all I'm doing back here. This is the largest I can make the iron blocks, unfortunately, so you have to stand in a very specific spot in order for this setup to work, which I'm not sure if we will do still. And I want to change this as well. I have an idea of how to make this better. And I'm gonna turn down the music a little bit more. That song's a little louder. And then we have several other games that I want to do. Some of them I've already talked about, like the mini golf with the armor stands, and then use a knockback sword to get them into the correct spot. I want to have this mineshaft themed, and it's going to be across the rooftops of the building, so it's the last thing we're designing, because I have to kind of adhere it to whatever the buildings will be. But thankfully there's not much to design here. It's just a basic Minecraft mechanic, and then we design a course around it. So we are actually focusing on this today. Today and tomorrow we're focusing on the technicals. This one we're not designing either. It's just dodgeball. It is, I can't pick that up. It's just dodgeball with wind charges. You just spam and try not to fall in yourself. And this will probably have to be a decently large arena just so we could appropriately do that. Another idea I had, because a lot of these ideas have been inspired or a copy of Mario Party games and Roblox copycats of Mario Party games, because I just literally spent this afternoon playing through some of those and then also watching some Mario Party stuff. So the idea I had was kind of like Order Up and stuff like that, except you have to only get your own block. I don't know if we will have this out in the open, and then it's going to be pickaxes, and you have to grab your block, and maybe you can grab other people's blocks and screw them over. Or it's going to be in a bunch of chests, and you can steal from others and sabotage them. Only your blocks will count towards your score, though. I know that much. I might change the blocks to actual food if we end up doing this with chests and such. But that is the general idea. Jump rope. This idea came from a lot of different minigame types, as well as I thought about the Hypixel one, where it's while the fire charge is being thrown at you. I have a feeling this was just a real quick idea to show exactly what I want to do, but I want to do dispensers that you have to jump and then it will flick on and off a fire. I'm not sure how we can quite do that. This might be crossed off from the list, because again, this is the problem of the redstone pulse that I don't know how to do. So I need an effective way that we can do this. I could always do it be a jump back and forth, so we set up 2 of these, and you have to jump in between them to which one's going to go on fire and which one's not. So if someone's not paying attention or jumping fast enough, then they'll get on fire and they're dead. I talked about this battleship. This is literally it. This is it. I'm just gonna build this. That's it. I might have it be separate rooms, so you can go back and look at what yours is, and then you will play on the same board, and you can say if it's a hit or not, but I have a feeling it'll probably end up just being this. Connect 4. Yeah. There's nothing more than that. That is just Connect 4. It's just the thing. It is just the game. This one, I think it's an interesting concept. I don't know if we'll keep it. I just thought it'd be something fun to have that's easier to do with less players. Memory. So this wouldn't actually be here. It'd look more like this, but I did this to show, hey, they are not all the same. So the only way this works is because of the oak and wood, the log and wood variants. Because both of those next to each other just look exactly the same if you can't see the top of them. So if you put a bunch of those in, you're going to have to memorize which is what. Although now I'm thinking about it, this falls apart the moment you break a block, because then you can see the ones around it. Which kind of makes this a little bit hard to actually appropriately do. So I'm thinking this is already off the list, because unless I get infested blocks, but I don't think infested blocks even pick up with stone pickaxe, silk touch. Does infested pick up with silk touch? Oh, I doubt it. I have heavy doubts. Minecraft, craft, wiki. Minecraft wiki, infested block. Is there any way to pick it up? Breaking. Does it drop? Silver respawns when it's broken unless the difficulty is peaceful in the game room. Do tile drops is set to false. It'll take less time to break than normal. When mined with anything other than silk touch, it drops nothing. When mined with a tool enchanted with silk touch, the equivalent non-infested block is dropped without spawning a silverfish. So if you mine it with silk touch, it will. If you mine infested stone with silk touch, it will just drop regular stone. So that's not what we need. Okay. Then memory's off the board. We don't need this. Then I have two different ideas here. Piston escape. This is brought on by a lot of different dodge bullet things. You just have to slowly climb up the pistons in order to get up, except these are going to be pulsing and being turned on and off a lot in order to make this a little more difficult. I might not make it too big. This could be a max of like 5 tall. It doesn't have to be super big to be or super tall to be annoying. If we do it taller, I would probably set checkpoints in way of having like trapdoors or something. Or you reach a certain point and then there's another floor, or it goes over a floor or something like that. I don't know. And then similarly, also a stereotypical Marty Party minigame is staying in the right spot and trying not to fall off and be pushed down into the middle. So another piston push, piston escape. This has come from I don't know if this is a Mario Party one. This was on Roblox. What I ended up with is the idea of starvation. Everybody eats rotten flesh before the game starts, so you already have hunger. As your hunger is going down, every so often there'll be a piece of rotten flesh that drops, and you have to eat that to survive. So whoever is the last one surviving wins. Whoever's not gonna die. And then bowling, which I think we can accomplish. This does take some skill to actually do it correctly. That. To see if you could actually accomplish a strike. I think in order to do this, we'd have to set it up. Need you to go a little bit over, and you to go a little bit over. And there we go. Boop. And you can see how many get down. That one doesn't count, so we got 4 out of 5. I think we can fairly easily create bowling. I might do this in a 5 wide, just so it's easier for me to set it up. Oh, yeah, that's part of the problem. Set it up like that. So this will definitely be... Alrighty, you know what, let's fix this. Make it 5 wide. And then we set up all of them. Then you get 1 turn. You have to not break them as well. This is why there's a slight bit of strategy. There'll probably be 3 turns then. Yeah, we'll probably have to do 3 turns instead of the normal 2. And then you can do so many rounds. I feel like I'd have to give everybody a couple practice turns, so they don't do that every time. Yeah. It either... Because I feel... I'm not even sure if what I keep doing is breaking this first one, which it means it doesn't affect any of the others. I need to place that just right. Can I get any points with 2? Yeah, you need at least, like, 3 turns in order to get anything done. I go all the way over here. 2. You can get a little bit done, but not a lot of a score with 2 turns. I feel like if I allow that 3rd turn, then this would be a lot more interesting. So yeah, it'd probably be 3 turns. And that's all of them. But I actually want to redo this one, the floor is lava. Where is it? There you are. Get rid of... There you are. These guys. So floor is lava, there's the whole thing of, like, sitting in the cobweb. I turn it off and I turn it back on, yes? What if floor is lava, you have to get to safe spots? We completely ignore this whole thing that I've done. It's just a floor of dispensers, and you have to get up to the safe spot, and I will randomly be pushing it. And people just have to watch and see when I actually push it. So let's get rid of all of this. All I want is 1 button, 1 lever. I don't care about anything else that's going on here. We're gonna ignore all of this. We're gonna ignore all the difficulties I had with making this. I do not have cheats on. We're gonna ignore everything that's here. Here. Beautiful. Clean slate. We're just gonna pick up all this. I think what this is I think what floor is lava is going to end up being is this will be in a warehouse, and I'm just going to have a beautiful floor of dispensers and a lot of wind charges to trigger all of these. What does? I don't know what way... You know what? Hold on, we're gonna do this. I need it to be in 3s anyway. Well, let's do it from the spot. Copy. And then go over here, / paste. Oh, the spot. There we go. So just have an entire thing of this. And then there will be a safety area that looks over it. And there's going to be various things around the place that will be safe spots that you have to go over or jump to. I need a reason for you to not always be on them, though. Because you could always stand on one. I'm tempted to do the safe spots as, like, pistons around the place. So I push up the pistons, and then the floor turns to lava. We're back to exactly what I was doing before. It's the exact same thing of what I was doing before. Okay. There's drip leaves, but we can't exactly accomplish that because it's... Do drip leaves burn? I would imagine they would. But I'm checking the wiki anyway. Drip leaves, do you burn? Or did Minecraft not think about that? Drip leaf. Big drip leaf. Temporary platform, it tilts down and drops with burden. Blast resistance, water. Flammable, yes. Catches fire from lava? No! We could do that. Ooh, wait, I do need it. Okay, so I have two thoughts here. We either go with the drip leaves or drip stone, and so we do drip stone like this, which I think would be pretty interesting. Or, and what I need to check if it even works, because I assume it wouldn't. Oh, that's not what I want to do. It does? Why does that work? That is just in general a safe spot. That's interesting. I think we have our old mechanic back, but better. I am going back to my old ways. We're just gonna make a bunch of these. What? Oh, I need a... That would be why. If I do this... And now it literally just needs the wind charges now, and I will just set off the wind charges once. That's hilarious. Oh wait, if I do two, you can't jump. You can't jump up on them. Maybe if I make some one and others two, so I can freak people out a little bit. Like, oh my god, I'm gonna fall. Oh, it's fine. As long as they don't touch the lava, it's fine. So the two ones look safer, but they actually aren't. Which I find really interesting. Just freak people out, just that little bit. Why not? What if I add an array? So some of these are dripstone, because I assume this also do that thing. Yes. Ooh, what if it's only drips? The drip leaves are 1, but there are varying heights of the dripstone. So you get your pick a poison. I like that a lot. Okay. Okay. Alright. And then we do buttons. And this is when I have to do the technical stuff. Axe. And bonk. Slash replace with air. Beautiful. Not as beautiful. Now it's beautiful again. Now wait, hold on, let me do a thing. X. Oh, I do have the X. Oh wait, I didn't. Oh. Copy. Oh wait, did I click this? No, I did not. Let's be real smart. Dispensers. And then I know it copies over if I add the lava inside of all these. So then I don't have to do this as much. Fill each of these with lava. And I also do need a I do need to do a thing so this doesn't go everywhere. And perhaps ruin something else. Actually, if I let it go over the side, it's gonna ruin... It will ruin my redstone. What little that I am doing. But it will, in fact, ruin it. And then I need to add wind charges to the dispenser. Let's do a couple stacks for testing purposes. And then we will copy to this block. Up to here. It's only, okay. Whoopee. / paste. And we just do this several times, which I know it's working, because I'm already seeing the lava bucket move. And I accidentally ruined it. Oh, second position. There we go. There. And I got all of these, so then I need to do this one. And I know I mess it up if the clay moves. Oh, messed it up. Now, redo, and then paste. And that was the last one, and now all of those dispensers have lava buckets. Thank you, Jade, you are fantastic. And now I just need to set up a wire system and a button. And that's all we need for this to work. It should work if there's just a piece of redstone under. Let me remove this from my playlist. There you go. Yep, there we go. Lovely. We'll need repeaters as well. That does work, yes. Oh. Okay. And then to that one. Oh, that's a problem. This guy, and then over to... And that is why. Actually, I don't even need to be doing this. What am I doing right now? I don't need to be doing this. I literally only had to do this once, and nothing more. And I could figure it out from there. Boop, boop, boop. And then... And how we're going to solve this issue is by doing this. And just make little privacy curtains, essentially. I do also need to figure out the center ones. I think if I'm doing exactly this, then it shouldn't be too difficult to figure out center. Because I can do that. Which I believe works how I'm expecting it to. Oh, wait, if I do this, then I don't even have to dig down one. If I just prepare to do it for all of them. And this is more or less a test. This may not exactly be what we do at the end. I may make this bigger, I may make this smaller. I'm feeling like I want to make this at least a 4x4 by the end of this. And just for prosperity, just for prosperity, connect all of them. These ones don't need... Okay, that one needs it. So. And I'll do these ones just because. There we go. All of these are absolutely connected, and they should all be A-okay. I'm gonna place... How far out does that go? I need to get the free cam over so I can really see. Oh, okay. Looking down at the button. Free cam through. Okay, so all of them absolutely work. What? Why is it all stuck on when I only did it once? How do they all get stuck on? How did I do that? Is it because of all the repeaters? It's a button. It's not a lever. Do I need a lever instead? I know off. No, that's just stuck on. Why did it get stuck on? How is it stuck on? Yeah, it's gonna trigger a lot of these several times. Okay. So now, okay, I need to fix this. How did that occur? They're all so close together, it's triggering the other ones. Oh. That's why I got stuck turned on. So one wind charge triggers the wind charges around it, which triggers the wind charges around it, which makes the entire circuit turn on. Has a mind of its own! This is really interesting to watch. I don't know if there's a possible way to catch up with it, because it just triggers each other. I think the only way to really fix this is just... yeah. And then... so now all of them are empty. So I need to make sure that never happens. So I think instead of one wind charge dispenser for every 3x3 area, I think it needs to be for every 5x5 area. Alright, so let me grab the axe. We're gonna forget all this ever happened. And we're just gonna... yep, we're just gonna come over here. And then from here to here... and replace air with terracotta. There we go, lovely. Nothing ever happened here. We're gonna remake that. Okay. Dispensers every 5 area. So there has to be 4 blocks in between each of these. I feel like doing a 4x4 as in dispensers would be too much for this, so let's just do 3 of them. Which also creates a large amount of space between safe areas as well. But it should also solve our problem. And then let's do... I need clay for the drip leaves. I don't even know if this will actually trigger all of them. We're under the assumption that it will, but... for prosperity, we're gonna push all of this up a block. Because I need to be able to actually place dispensers, because they do not place in air, unfortunately. When charges... buttons... And let's give each of these... something that they can dispense. They can each dispense an arrow. So I just need them to dispense something so I can tell. The dispenser should throw it straight up in the air, correct? So every one of these that has been triggered should have a arrow in it. Or, like, on the actual block that it just dispensed from. That is the hope here. This takes forever. This is very annoying to set up. Every single time. It doesn't matter what it is. But now it's doubly so. Because I have an extra ring of these that I have to slowly set an item in. And then let's put a button down there. I didn't. Yeah, that's a problem. That would be a problem. Okay, so that doesn't help me. I do need the water, or I need lava buckets is what I need. Lava buckets is the most accurate way for me to tell if something has or has not worked. Because you can change this as a cheat, but lava buckets do not turn into an infinite source. You can also do the same for water in cheats, but it's honestly just easier to do. Just set it up with lava buckets as long as you don't have flammable stuff. And then slowly fill my inventory. This is 24, so I need 18 plus 6. There we go. And then we slowly add to every single one of these. Stupid. Really, really slow. Very annoying. This one didn't even use an arrow. There might be a diamond pattern if... That's the only one that still had an arrow in it. Why is that the case? That's interesting. So they all work. Aha! Hell yeah, okay, lovely. Also, apparently, I was out just before this. I didn't even realize I still had my shoes on. I love these shoes, they're not great for sitting in. I do not sit normal, I like cross legs all the time. It was very slightly annoying to have my shoe up on my chair. These are great, I love them, but they do take a minute to get on and off every single time. Okay. So that is perfect. And at this point, all I have to really do is X. Let's copy from here. And then copy. / copy. / paste. And we can get rid of some of this, not all of this, because I'm gonna have to redo that again in a second to make sure all of these work together. Uh-oh. And then let's do / copy. I can do it from the side. There we go. Boop. And boop. Oh, there's nothing there. There's nothing for me to run on there. And then slowly fill in around here. I kind of wanna... Oh, I can't quite do that, though. If I had this one bigger, I could have, but... I feel like these large distances between save spots really work. I can't do the original idea of, like, oh, some drip leaves that bring you over to the drip stone. I can still do this and freak people out a little bit. Make this one extra tall in the middle. Just freak people out just a wee bit. Maybe that one's too tall. There we go. And I'll make that 3 tall just to annoy people. It's like, oh, I guess I'll stand here. Even though it's not... You wouldn't think this is a safe spot. Ooh, wait. Oh. And then people will freak out anyway. Great. That's lovely. Also, this makes redstone really easy for all of these. I do need to once again be careful that they're not triggering each other. But this should all be fine, theoretically speaking. And then probably repeaters because of how big the space is. Boop, boop, boop. Wait, all I have to do is this, actually. I don't even have to go out that far. And then boop, boop. Nope. There we go. And there's probably repeater needed here and here, just in case. Okay. The first test. Does this work as intended? Yes! Hey, Mysteria! We finally figured out the floor is lava. I know very little redstone, but wind charges saved my life. This is our 3rd stream on this one minigame. Wait, why are there 2 lava there? Oh no! 2 of the... Oh, it's getting worse every time. That's a problem. That's... Why is it different ones every time? Okay, so the only way I know really how to fix that issue is bring the wind charges closer, but I don't know if that'll trigger all of them then. Oh, no. Would it still trigger all 5? All 24? It seems to be replacing the block in opposite to the... yeah. So, the way this works is, these are wind charges. Wind charges will trigger buttons. So we have buttons underneath all the dispensers, but the wind charges aren't triggering them every time. Because I have the wind charge far enough so it triggers all of this. Let's try moving you up one. And see if that is the problem. And I'm just gonna trigger only this one. Oh, that triggers all of them. Okay. Which ones? Like, this entire side didn't get triggered. Again. I need wind charges again. If I can attempt to reset this. I'm gonna be such a noob on an updated server. I backported some content, but not all, obviously, due to limitations. That's fair. Honestly, I haven't played with the Pale Garden yet. The server is currently on 1.21. So I have not touched the Pale Garden at all. Oop. Which one? What? Oh, you were the one that was missing. And then you're missing your lava, and then you are missing lava. I backported Pale Garden. Also, I noticed your chat rules were PG-13. Is my maturity going to be an issue on the stream server? No. I personally just keep it PG-13. Other members in the server keep theirs at different levels. I keep it PG-13 because I just don't really like talking about explicit stuff with strangers. Yeah. And then some people keep theirs family-friendly content, but all are welcome. So all of that triggered. Oh, do you not have any more wind charges? No, you do. There we go. Okay, hold on. I think my only problem here is I need to move all of this up one. Let me move you back down. And then let's do... Nope, that's not the right block. Axe. Or wait, axe only needs to be... No, I do need this. Okay. And then / copy. Paste. What do you... Oh, because I... yeah, that'd be the problem. That would be the problem. / copy. Wait. / copy. / paste. There we go. I literally opened Twitch to see how much more, if any, of my last VOD got muted and saw you streaming. I just learned how to separate my mic from my music audio today, so hopefully that won't be an issue in the future. Nice! I use on OBS the in the file settings. It's not gonna let me touch anything right now, but encoder, I do custom encoder preset, which allows me to select the Twitch VOD track. So now it doesn't save. So that's great. Is there anything? Oh, like half of this didn't carry over. Yep, yeah. For a little bit there, I was like messing around with stream settings, and I was so upset that a couple of them saved the music. I'm like, no! I can't use this anymore! Can't even upload it to YouTube for the VOD channel. Yes! And then we're gonna try it a few times. We're gonna try a few times. There we go. Oh. And then those just take a minute to go, but that's fine. That's just normal lava mechanics. I love that. I love that. That's perfect. So it'll just be me awkwardly singing by myself now, which is great. Yeah, it's the fun part. Every now and again, I'll catch myself on a VOD. I'll be like editing through a VOD, and there will be just... I'm just beep booping along to some video game music. Okay, bowling is literally just the armor stands. Armor stands and wind charges. There's nothing really for me to do here, but have fun with it. Some of these will be fully designed, some of these will be will be me just figuring out the mechanics. Because that one is fully mechanics. This one's just design. I just gotta figure out a way to make that look cool. You! Did you not learn from last time? Learn your lessons. Outta here. Outta here. Most fun way to deal with a wandering trader. Okay, I need to figure out the pistons. We're getting rid of memory, so let's move the piston push one to its own space, rather than clogging up the piston escape area. I'm not even sure if I'm gonna do both piston games. I just want a large variety of them. You monster. They're annoying! But boop. Thankfully this isn't hard to move at all. And we're not gonna actually use redstone blocks, this was just so I could show off the idea. Because I just want a middle pit, and then one safe spot for you to stand on. A 3x3 is probably the most I'll make this. I might make this a 4x4 area, actually. Because I want it to be risky in order for you to, like, go from one side to the other. Because you can make that, but that would be difficult to do. So if you're gonna pull that move, it has to be worth it to pull that move. And then the pistons push you off into a hole, randomly. I need an alert system. I should actually do an alert system for the floor's lava. Hold on, let's do a note. So it's gonna go do a note block first, and then it will activate that. So it goes ding, 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 and then it will activate the lava. Ding. Let's do off one. And then... Oh, I need to do one right there. And then... Wait, no. Can I... Let's just swing it back around then. Swing it back around. G... A... B. And then it'll go back. No, just do that, yeah. Oh, you stupid blocks. I love redstone. I do. I love it. So now... I love redstone. I love redstone. Ow. Okay, so I do still need it to do this whole thing, because I want it to be really late behind the blocks, and it gives you a minute to actually go to the blocks. So now I need to set up... That'll do. It'll activate 1, activate 2... I want this one to be pretty late behind, and it's like the very last warning you get. Your G, A, B. That needs to be more separated out. I really like that, but that needs to be far more separated. Because I want to go, duh, duh, duh. So you need at least 2, and I want you to be like 4. G, let's make you B, and then go for D. There we go. And then we're gonna make this real slow. Maybe even do that. Okay, maybe not that slow. Try that, maybe? I want to be a little closer to that last note. Maybe even just do that. There we go. Now that's terrifying. And it goes just immediately after it. I love Redstone, they said, while regretting their life choices. Yes. Absolutely. But I do genuinely love this concept so much. Yeah, so not even like a moment after that last note, you are done. You're out. I need to make like a second button. So there's one that's on and one that's off. I need a button. I know, yeah, there we go. Or wait, would be even easier, let's use the nether woods, because those ones don't burn. What I'm concerned about putting a wood button there is that it would burn. So let's do the crimson and warp button instead, so it's very obvious which one's off, which one's on. And actually, let's make this even easier for myself. Because I will forget. I know I will. It's going to happen. I know I will. On, off. Lovely. So this one will purely do that. We'll set off the entire circuit. While this one... Ooh, that does mean I need to move something around, though. So I want this one to only turn it off and not play the notes again. So I need to remember to set up 4 of those. I need to have this far away enough to do this then. And I also need to check that this works again. But because of the repeaters there, it shouldn't ever set off the notes again. There goes. Oh, wait. That's a problem. There we go. And then I turn all of it off. Yeah! Redstone! Oh, neat bot. Yeah. I used to have like a lot of different timers, but I just set it to this one because this is the only one I really need. Alright. We have an actual alert system now. So what I want to do here is I just want to set up a lot of random ticking clocks. I need to find a way to efficiently turn them off, which I'm not sure quite how to do. Can you move? I want to know, can you move a redstone repeater? No, it just gets rid of it. No. Okay, so how does one set up a redstone clock with an on and off switch? Because I'm thinking of this, which I usually have to... When I make one of these, I usually have to do them by hand. Yeah, and it's already messed itself up. There we go. So I just want to set off a bunch of these at varying rates. And have basically different ones for almost every single. Or I don't have to have different ones for every single. I can have like 4 or 5 different clocks and then set them up to different pistons. I need to know that because I got a clock for my random gen, but if I want to stop it, I have to break the thing. Yeah, every time I've made a clock, I always manually reset it in order to turn it off. So let's set up one clock like that. Another like this. Or actually, I could probably do... I don't have to make as big of clocks. I can just make some slower clocks. I will take every shortcut possible for redstone. I have no idea how to do otherwise, since it works by itself, being broken to function. Yeah. This is the redstone I know. My redstone knowledge goes back before daylight sensors were added, so... Yeah, wind charges are my savior. They're the only reason the entire thing works. Oh, lovely. Cult of the Lamb. And then I'm moving out of the range, but that's fine. I feel like I want to have 2 that are this size, and then I'll do them slightly backwards. Because I want to see what each of these ticks would be. That feels pretty good, actually. So some of these are a little slower, some of these are a little faster. It's interesting that the slowest 3x3 and the fastest 2x2, the fastest 2x2, this boy, faster than this boy. That's interesting. That's really cool to see, actually. And the plan is we set up a bunch of pistons. A little bit like so, and we go. I can't put one on that, so I'd have to set that one up. Or wait, hold on. I could just do it like this. Oh wait, that needs to be like that. There we go. Oh, I broke. I broke a duck lock. There we go. So you have this issue. I need to make them slower because I feel like this is too much and it's just a little too hectic. I need them to be slower, and I need there to be a ding every time one of them goes off. So I feel like all of these will have to be pretty slow. You know what? We can make this a whole lot easier. I could also do this as a host or like a game master thing. Why am I trying to do this on clocks? Hold on. I could just make this like a game master. Oh. And then have a lever to this that is set up with a note block. So, if you hear this sound, then it's that wall. You hear this sound, it's that wall. So there are several sounds you can get from note blocks. We've heard one of them from the clay. I know there's another one for glass. I know there's another one for wood. And I know there's another one, more expensive, for gold. I feel like this one's a little quiet. We need a better one. Would stone be better? No, it's just a bunk. I need... isn't Magma Cube one? No, that's also that sound. Was it Glowstone, I think, is another one. I want to change that, then. That feels offbeat with everything else, because... those all sound about right. Wool, maybe. I kind of like wool. I want something different. Is terracotta any different? Or like the glazed terracotta? No. That's still just a stone sound. What about concrete? What are note block sounds? Wiki. Wiki. Minecraft wiki note block. Instruments. Clicks and sticks, spark of gold. Clay mix flute, guitar, xylophone, iron xylophone. So bone and iron. I want to hear those. No. I kind of like iron, actually. What are other sounds? Soul sound is a cowbell. Pumpkin is a didgeridoo. Hold on, we gotta try the pumpkin. I kind of... because these are the typical sounds you hear in Minecraft minigames. I kind of like the pumpkin. There's also soul sand. Hay bale's a banjo, but I don't really want that. Any other blocks is a harp. Oh, if it's air, it's hot. I'm just gonna leave it air then. Air's good. Because that matches with the rest of it. Just sounds like a musical fart. Real. I feel like all of these match together really well. Yeah. Let me set them all back to the same sound. Yeah. Those are all, like, thematically together. It makes sense together. Okay. Again, I'm gonna need a control room for this, but... I can get away with the control room I was gonna make over there. Okay, hold on. I'm about to blow some minds. Fill this block up here. Stone, I will turn it into glass. Stone is just easier to type. Yeah. And so what I will do is I might make this a 5x5 then. Or 5x5 or 3x3. Because I kind of just want to place the blocks. I want to place the buttons in the middle, but I don't think that's going to happen. A 3x3 would be easier to jump across, though. But you can absolutely jump across to 4x4. Because now that we're moving from the previous idea of just random pistons to controlled pistons and wall of piston instead, I feel like a 3x3 may make more sense. And may even be easier on the redstone. That one is no longer needed. So now it's a much smaller area, but you're basically guaranteed to be pushed down and fall down. Get rid of those. And ensure I've actually placed this right. Yeah. Guess what? Is it a metal pipe? Is it a metal pipe, Billy Bob? Yeah! We figured out the floor is lava. Billy Bob, it's figured out. Yeah! we figured it out. It's good. It's there. It's ready. That's so much louder than I was prepared for. Yeah, metal pipe be like that. Metal pipe has just become a meme in this community, and I'm not exactly sure why. It's just fun. Oh, I've already... Yeah, I shouldn't have clicked clear. What we want to do to make my control room... Oh, wait, hold on. Let me... I'm not actually going to put wool down for it, because I don't like it. But I want to have the wall actually be whatever sound they are. So if people know the knowledge, it's actually helpful. And they can start to associate, oh, if you hear the clay sound, then it's the clay. And so on and so forth. And I will also have that set up here. Actually, I want to do this then. Because the thing I want to do should be able to work for that size. My record of metal pipes in one stream is 41. Yeah, from last Friday? Not the most recent Friday, but the Friday before. There we go, that's perfect. And so we'll do wool for you, and I'm not gonna do all that by hand again. Slash replace air, wool. No, wool. What do you mean? Replace air with wool. Yes, this to this, replace air with wool. White wool. White wool, you suck. Here... Also, this provides light for this area, so that's great. Replace air, glowstone. Oh, this one's gonna be expensive. I'm gonna have to go mining for this one. Replace air, gold block. There we go. So this will probably be exactly how it's designed as well. I wasn't planning on working on the design for this in addition to that, but this works. Also, I did a full screen by accident. That's 2. The West Snookia building, yeah. Oh, Mysteria Wolfie. I did this in one stream. I did this in a 16-hour day. Everything that's over here was like a 14, 16-hour day. And I have slight regrets, but not many regrets, surprisingly. So everything but the B&B, AFK in, Your Dynamite Time, this building, this building, this building, this building, this building, and this warehouse and these 2 buildings. Everything else was made in a 14-hour day. Did you eat? Did you drink water? Did you stretch? I took about a 2-hour break for lunch. I started working on it after I had breakfast, and I took about hour break for dinner. I didn't do anything else that day. I stood outside for a little bit. That was great. I love that. That was lovely. I'm never forcing myself to do that again. This is why we're working on this today, and then tomorrow, depending on how this works out, because I might get all the mechanics done tonight. Tonight we're working on mechanics, and we're gonna work on mechanics as well tomorrow night. Wednesday night is gonna be working on the designs. Thursday, I'm thinking it's Monday for some reason. Tonight and tomorrow night are mechanics. Tuesday is designing the actual exterior buildings, how the decoration to the mechanics. And then Wednesday we'll start building. Thursday I'm gonna be building recording, not as streaming, because I'm busy that day. And then Friday, we're going to be doing a testing stream on the actual server with the other members. I haven't been outside in 3 days. I was outside earlier, it was nice. It's actually been a really nice day where I'm at, thankfully. Oh right, I need the blocks again. There we go. And then I need redstone, and I need repeaters, and I need a block. Because I need to place everything for this first. And then we can do it. Have an awesome rest of your stream, we'll catch you later. Alright, have a good day. And we can slowly drag this down. Like that. And I don't know if that would go all the way down. Did that activate all of them? Genuinely, did that activate all of them? Okay, that's perfect. Good. So I don't need repeaters for this. I only need repeaters for the block. Or, I need repeaters in order to delay it, actually. Because I need this signal to be delayed so they can get a warning in order to leave. So we want it to go through... Does that still activate you even though it's not connected? Yes. Okay, good. So I want it to hear a note block and then another note block very long after. Actually, I could do this. Would that be accurate? I need to put play underneath these. I have a question on Passion SMP Season 2. Shoot! Go for it. No, that automatically goes off is a problem. Oop. No, that needs to be lowered even more. Okay. I want a warning is the problem. So small 18 plus content creator can join, right? Any content creator. Not necessarily as long as they themselves are an adult. I don't care about their actual content age or what their content's meant for, but as long as they themselves are an adult and they're a content creator. I do not recommend starting content creation as a reason to join because the server is made for just people who need someplace to actually be doing that content, and everything on the server is for content. It's not necessarily, oh, just playing Minecraft. I'm literally spending every week making mini games, working on this project, working on that project. Some people take it as seriously I do, some people don't, but everything on the server is for the sake of content and not just generally playing Minecraft. So I do not recommend becoming a content creator for it, but I will not stop you. I feel like I need to slightly... There we go, that's more accurate. Because I want it to be in line, in tune, so when the pistons go off, the note block goes off. There we go. I've been doing content creation for doing content creation for 2 years. Hell yeah, nice. I had no clue, actually. So I think that's I didn't even mean to click on that one. I think that's literally perfect. Okay, great. I'm almost tempted to make it smaller, but I think this will do just as is. Oh, I need yeah. It's not quite correct. There we go. It's looking a little odd. That should still activate it just the same, yes? Yeah, okay, lovely. Most of it's been Minecraft. Nice! I'll have to check out your stuff after stream. Oh. Wait, I don't need to build all this again, hold on. I have cheats. I have my cheats. I'll just copy it from that spot. Let's go from here down to here, should do the trick. And so we do //copy, //rotate 90, //paste. And then all we need to do is, for this one, we just need to get rid of the blocks underneath. Double check our work. There we go. And then we do the same thing again. Except we switch it to glowstone. Oh, it's right on the edge of the barrier, too. I haven't recorded in a while, mainly because I forgot my logic when my login when I had to reset my PC. Ooh, yeah. There's a couple logins I just don't have anymore, and I don't know where they are. I don't know. Why did that not work? That's a problem. What? For this one specifically, do I need to do this? Yeah, okay, so it won't go through glowstone. If I literally just replace this with a different block. Yeah, okay. So let me just have... I don't need these to be stone buttons. Oh. There we go. And then //rotate. Oh, I don't need to type it, I already did. And then change these to gold blocks. I finally logged in again to my channel today. Hell yeah! Nice! I have my logins actually spread across a couple Gmail, so if for some reason it gets hacked, hopefully I will be able to recover it pretty easily. I love the gold one, it's such a pretty chime. Why did that hold for a second there? Does it hold like that for everything? Okay, so it does hold for a second, that's fine. I'm tempted to do 2 sets of pistons, but I feel like if you can jump over that, you're safe, you're good. I do need a spot where you can actually get into this minigame, though. So how would I be able to register for past an SMP Season 2? We have the, I would love words. There's a promo on TikTok, but I could always, after stream, I can DM you the, form itself. Because the promo for TikTok is just to be able to hand out the form. So I'll DM you the form after stream. How get in-game? That is currently an issue. Also, oh, I forgot I was going to do this. Yeah. So this was the very last thing I need to do for this, is I want to put an armor stand here with our lovely little block trick. Invisible, or wait, show arms first. And then turn you to 0. 0. 45, 15. Oh, it's positive 45. Positive 45. No, it is negative 45. Or 15 negative 45? 15 45. Yeah. Yeah. And then let's make you size 10, because that is literally the max you can do. If you need my name on Discord, your server is Jack. No, I see you on Discord. Oh wait, are you not on the server on Discord? Probably then, yeah. Is the server link not working? I am. Okay, then I'll just find you on the server. Oh, the name is Jack on the server. Okay. Got it. I need... We need to slowly move this down. No gravity, please. Move you down to negative 5. That is not the correct way. Minus 2. The fun thing is actually getting this in the correct position on here. No, not 57. 6.5. 75. 60? That looks like it's correct. That's a big armor stand. I love my mods. 0.5. No, it needs to go the other way. 1.5. That should be pretty good. Let's do minus 7. 6.5. That'll do. So the way this works is I am in... Oh. I need to turn you invisible. I am in here, but... Oh, you can absolutely see where I'm standing still, and see where the buttons are. Okay, so this is not going to work. Good, because honestly, this would ruin a lot of builds if I had it there. I'm not sure if I want people to be able to see me controlling it or not. The idea is that they wouldn't be able to, but... It's not a huge, horrible thing if they can. Is scaffolding difficult to see through? Slightly. I think I might go for copper grates. Wait, hold on, wax. It'll annoy me later if I copy-paste this, and it turns out I used the regular copper grates, and the schematic's mad at me because I didn't use the wax copper grates in the schematic. But you can still absolutely see me up here, but it's a little more difficult to figure out what I'm doing. I might just go for the glass. I don't care. It doesn't matter if they can see me or not, because they're gonna die. What version will Passion Season 2 be on? It will be on 1.21.7. We would do 8, but they're already going to be coming out with 9 apparently. And mods can only update so fast. So we're going to be on 7 until our mods update to newer versions. And whenever Mojang decides to slow down on the updating. because they are updating a lot. Where do we make them? We could always make them enter through the sides here. That's a good choice. Let's do that. So you enter the game on the sides and you hop down. Or probably better to do it like that, a little lower down. Like Unite Blunt. So you're not taking fall damage already. And then what we're going to do down here, there's actually a trick. I have yet to properly use this, but as far as I'm aware, if you put carpet over powdered snow, no fall damage. Would it be like this one on Minehut? We will be using a different hosting system, because Minehut, you're not able to do voice chat on it. So we're going to use a different one. I'm still looking between a few in order to figure out which one's going to be the best, because I'm the one paying for the server. Yeah. Right now I'm back and forth between two of them. I can't remember the names. One really popular one, and one that I know there's a discount code for that will generally just be cheaper, which we're probably going to go with that one. Trying to think of how I can decorate this. Because I could also, instead of doing this, of making people go in through the sides here, I could always make them go up through the bottom of it. And we'll just have something in the center here that you could swim up. I'm not wholly sure of that. Yeah, I think it's probably going to have to be through these sides. And then I'll have to do some cover-up work on the redstone. So the design will end up being something like this. And then when you die, you can come up here and join me in the control room. I may have to move that note block. Oop. And do that instead. Oop, nope. Which should still absolutely work. The question is the timing right if I do this instead. Okay, yeah, that's good timing. Okay. Which allows me to do this as well here. Okay, lovely, lovely, lovely. I have no idea how we're gonna design the actual building for this, but it'll be interesting. It will be interesting. It's certainly gonna be that. I have no idea how this is gonna end up. Because I need diagonal entrances for all of this. You know what? I could make this underground. So the observation area is actually up here, and this is where the general building is. I know this is a mechanics stream, but we're getting slightly into designing today, because I kind of need that for this. And so the way you get down is just by a elevator shaft. I have honey blocks that I can do this. There's a trick with honey blocks in which you can make a water elevator shaft but not actually see it. And so I could do little corners with the water elevator shaft. Because honey blocks will clip through. And so we can do a little stop and then little stop there. I need to do this all the way up then. And I need to make a stop there. I need honey blocks and water. And kelp is the easiest way to do this. And it's magma that drags you down. And just do one right there. Yeah, because if I move it one in, it's gonna be... Wait. I can just move it one, and there's nothing stopping me from doing that. Axe. / cut. / paste. Beautiful. This is not a damn thing stopping me from doing that. Nope, that's not what I needed. And then we need honey blocks right here. I'm using, like, all of the little mechanics I know for this specific one. I wasn't even sure if I was gonna do this one. This one was like a haha, maybe I'll do it. Okay, so this works all the way down. Yes. So now, you slowly slide down. And then this is the drop-off where you go play the game. You can't go back up. Once you're down, you're down. So I need to make sure... Well, it's slow enough that I could just hop off. Yeah. So we'll do several of those. And we have the honey farm, so I just need to make sure I get enough honey blocks for that. Probably a stack will do. That sounds about right. Yeah, okay, lovely. So we have all the mechanics figured out for that. I think this one will actually be the piston clocks. This one genuinely gotta be piston clocks. I almost don't want to do this one, because I have another piston one planned for the South District. There we go. The South District... Oh dear, what did I hit? And what just happened? Okay. I don't know if that picked up at all. South District will also have minigames, but their minigames are more focused on racing. What are their minigames? Hold on. Let me search. The South District will have mazes, ice boating, strider race, piston race. I have a very special plan for that one. Pass the pig. Basically, you know, cross country, you pass the stick and then carry on. I want to do parkour, and you bring around a pig. One person, and it's a joint effort, it's a team effort of, like, dragging this pig across this parkour. Cliff climb, we're going to use wind charges in order to slowly get yourself up a cliff, which should also mess up other players, so it's going to be really annoying. Down parkour, the exact same arena, except you have to... I might do a separate arena for this. You have to slowly make it down the parkour without dying. Minecart shoot, I don't have a name for this yet. I just want to have special lanes where you are shooting a minecart. Different minecarts are worth different points. There will be hoppers in your entire lane, and it will connect back up to your chest to give you your score. The reason it's over here is because I want to put mine shafts in here so that fits the theme. I want to put a theater for fun. I don't know what we're going to do with it. I just want to put a theater because I think it'd be funny. Sign off. I have a name for this. There's a old Hypixel game where you use a hoe, and then you go around, and it turns to wool, and you have to section off areas that are yours, right? You can't do that quite in Minecraft, because people using different hoes will always just... It's all gonna be farmland. But, if you use signs, you have to, one, place them a lot, and you have to... You can absolutely do the same mechanics with signs. So it's going to take a bit of explaining to people if they don't know the actual game, but you can just mark off your own area to slowly place your signs. And then it's really easy cleanup, because I just have to get rid of one sign. And then Mo door. I just want to make a door maze to piss people off. Escape room, I'm gonna make it just a bunch of buildings that are the interiors are covered with paintings, and you have to find your way in and out. King of Lava, I want to make a magma block floor arena and give everybody lava buckets and see who lasts the longest. And that's all the minigames for that. And then Central District is mostly shops. Will mostly be shop and resident based because we still have a bunch of villagers in the community center that I need to get rid of. Apparently more of them have died. I swore it was only one that died. Apparently 2 of them are now gone, but whatever. So that's a bunch of stuff over there. I feel we have plenty of minigames here. We'll have plenty of minigames over there, so the last day will be filled with a lot of minigames. And we'll have to figure out pick and choose. I already have a piston race over there. I have a piston one I really like here. I don't feel like we need to do this one. I feel like this one just isn't necessarily worth it. Especially because somehow we've managed to be here for an hour and a half. Ice, air, grass. We've been here for an hour and a half, and I've done the mechanics for 2 games. This boy, and that boy. And then bowling, it already has its mechanics. Like, most of these have their mechanics figured out. This iced over again. Okay, so I do need to do that. I need to figure out a way to fix that, then, if string doesn't count. So, this isn't even really a game. I just want to add this as a game and add this as an option for people and then watch them lose their minds over normal Minecraft. I literally just want to implement ice fishing and then set up several spots where people can ice fish and detonate points for like, oh, if you get a piece... This is completely RNG. If you get a piece of cod, it's worth this many points. If you get salmon, it's this many points. If you manage to get these pieces of treasure, it's this many points. If you get a certain piece of treasure, you lose points. If you get a pufferfish, you lose points. If you get trash, you lose points, etc. And I just want to give them a fishing rod and just let them go until it breaks. Or let them go for so many minutes. Something like that. I just want to see what happens when people get ever so slightly pissed off. So that is the entire thing there. There is nothing more than just me watching a bunch of people play Minecraft together. Just I might make a dock for this. So the way I want to do the ice fishing is I actually want to have it set up where we are currently building. So I need another copy of the world to do that. Or I could set it up in this little space. It's going to be towards the back of the minigame district. I know that much. Checkers and Connect 4 are by themselves. I don't know if I want to do the dispensers. I don't know if I want to do the fire rope. Because I don't want to oversaturate this with games I'm genuinely not interested in having people play and that are just copyouts of other games. So I feel like this one wouldn't actually be all that interesting. It was just an idea I had. I don't think it was even listed. I think I might have crossed it out because I did write down some of the ideas I didn't really like. I think that one was genuinely crossed off my list, but I wrote it down again anyway. This one is mostly design. It's not really mechanics. It's just, do I want to make it food? Do I want to make it blocks? And how do I want to go, like, do we want to put in chests or not? And then the rest of it's designing and making it interesting. Because I feel like we could literally just have a bunch of chests about, and then fill them with random junk. And then give them so much amount of time. Because I'm thinking maybe... How many types of food there are in the game? Can I get away with this? I think I can. Okay, so what I'm thinking is somebody's mutton, but if you get cooked mutton, it's extra points. Somebody's chicken, somebody's rabbit, cod, salmon, beef. There's just enough raw food types in the game for me to do that. Because I don't know how many people total would play this, but this is also planned the very last day of Season 1. We will get the people from Season 2 into play as well, which is why we're doing opening up everything early. Why am I doing rabbit when I can do chop? Rabbits are annoying to collect. I'd rather not have to farm rabbits if possible. Yeah. So I think this would literally be it. The rest of this is designing. This is the plan. And then you'd get as many points as you can. I'm not concerned about this being an absolutely amazing game and there's a bunch of mechanics to it. I just want it to be, okay, that's what you have to do. That's your goal. Here's how you can mess other people up. Good luck. Go in the arena. I don't need it to be super complex thing. So that is all the mechanics. That is genuinely everything. It's literally these two that were the only serious mechanical ones. And then I already knew how I want to do Connect Fork. That's easy. Oh, there's starvation. The only reason, starvation, the only concern I really have with this one, I do seriously like this idea. Because it is simple, it's just watching people slowly eat rotten flesh and try and survive it. And have to eat rotten flesh. I feel like I just put these on clocks. And then I'd manually start and restart the game. I feel like I know I have a lot of rotten flesh. That's not actually an issue for this game. I know for a fact I have a lot. I want to figure out if there's a way for me to randomize the clocks. Like, seriously have a randomized clock. If I place a bunch of these randomly... I need actual redstone with this. Because my thought is, if I just connect up a lot of these together, and not all of them quite together, I need to do this in a way that the clocks don't trigger each other. I want to know if there is a way... that I could do this. Oh wait, I should do that then. If I do that, would those would probably set off each other because it's too close. Then I'll probably do a lot of these guys, but it's kind of random who is connected to who. And this wouldn't be exactly like this, but this would be roughly what it is. I think there's a way I could also go about setting off all of these clocks at once. I need this will do. Nope. And then I need to go... That one's already connected up. You're the only one that doesn't have a connection right now. And then give me some rotten flesh. There's 5 of them. And I can get away with this as well, because I plan on just completely filling in the space, and then it will go through the floor. So let's actually test that out and see if I can even do that, because that is the plan, is that it will just pop up through the floor. And I need to see if it will go down there, or if it will go up above. Because as far as I'm aware of Minecraft, it should just go up through the floor. What I want to do to set off all of these together... I need to make this guy go over here. I know there's a way that I can make all of these go off at the same time. Because I don't want to have to manually go 1, 2, 3. I want a way that I can set off all of these, but they won't come back to be set off again. Let's connect to you, and then... you go to you. I need a way to get back. Okay. Let's do this around. Which will actually give me time for the game to let the game start as well. If I do something like that. And so now all I have to do is that. And now all the clocks are going off. That's way too often? Oh, this one got ruined immediately. That is the plan. There we go. Oh, I need to break the clock. So I do have to manually reset stuff, but... oh, why did somebody connect up to somebody else? These two are connected. How are you two? Oh, that way. They set each other off. Okay. So we need to retry that. So boink boink. And now all the clocks are individually going. You are not fully connected to each other. Break. Break the clock. Thank you. Let's slow all these guys down as well, so it's not nearly as often. And I can make sure... oh, you guys all are all the way at the back. Okay. Nope. There we go. So now... so all these are getting set off. Is this one getting set off? No, because it physically can't be connected. Do you even have any? You don't have any rotten flesh to dispense. Hold on, I need to fix this. So it doesn't... let's just actually add you. Let's just add you to you. Yeah. Instead of attempting to throw it with something else. That one's going. This one is not connected to anything. There we go. I thought I did 6. I was wondering where I went wrong. There we go. So all these are going. So that is the general idea that I want to do. Nope. Turn off. Thank you. And you're still going. Turn off. There we go. We'll have to do bigger clocks than that, but that is the general idea. So I'll set up, like... I definitely won't set up that one. But we'll probably set up 2 long and a 3 long, 4 or 5 long. Yeah, etc. Actually, I could probably get a better use out of my space if I went with something like this and then snaked it around. Is this a clock I could feasibly make? Because that would, like, slightly use my space better. Is that a reasonably long clock? This is going to take forever to calibrate. Okay. And then you're not calibrated. You're not calibrated. And a lot of you are. So I just want to see, are you a good clock? Yeah. So I might set up... oh? What happened there? Why does it... you're facing the wrong way. That's why it stops. You're facing the wrong way. That's a problem. There we go. On my YouTube videos, I don't talk on them. Alright. Yeah, okay. I'm also missing one here, but there we go. So that's a reasonably long clock I can also accomplish. It's about the same amount of space as if I did a 5x4, but it does use slightly more. And space is kind of a concern. It's not a huge concern, but it's interesting that I can make a clock like that. There we go. Okay. So starvation is literally dispensers and clock. That's all I care about. We'll properly design one next time. Because that's all I wanted to do today. I just wanted to figure out mechanics and technicalities, and I thought this... I will always love that. Was going to take way longer than that. And I thought the other ones were going to take a lot longer, but only 3 of these are really mechanics. The rest of them are just technical, or just design. So I need to actually spend the next 24 hours designing that out, so Tuesday we can get started on building them in creative, and then I can turn them into schematics so we can build them on the server. I'm still surprised that it took so little to design, to do the technicalities. Okay. That's great. That's lovely. You know, hold on. You guys are joining me for this. I'm making the thumbnail right now. I have a beautiful idea for the thumbnail. I'm just gonna take a lovely screenshot of mine zone for later. You're joining me on the screenshot. I'm making it right now. I don't care. Welcome to my green screen. Oh, lag. Oh, there we go. Welcome to my green screen. I just wanna turn your head, young sir. Oh, I need you to face a different way. I need you to face like that. And then move you, or let's do you as a 45 degree. I love straw statues, by the way. This is not a promo at all. I just love them. They are great for thumbnails. They are absolutely fantastic. So what we're going to do is we're going to tilt the head all the way this way. And we're going to move a hand down here. And we're going to move a hand up here. And we're going to go wowee. And then add just a little bit of life to it. This is just a personal touch that I like doing to add a little bit of life to my poses. And I need to cross him over more to give him forced perspective. And I want to actually add myself slightly... scale. Slightly rotated like that in it. So let's force some gravity into this, actually. I wanna... That's not a foot place. That's not a good spot. That you are not standing anymore, sir. There we go. So he's really pushing into that pose, and he looks like he's flaunting. We're doing a lot more than just game mechanics today. We're now doing posing and technical mechanics. You do need to be slightly forward. But he's like he's taking a step forward. I need to move him slightly more then. So he really is leaning into that. But you wouldn't also lean your head down with it, so we gotta tilt his head the other way, this way. And tilt it a little more, lift his head up a little more. Like, look at this thing. What is that? Oh, that's part of the bag. That it's gonna look weird. There's nothing I can do about that. Okay, so the problem with my head is I have 3D skin layers, but my character can't do that pose. There's no way for me to do it, so I need to find a good way to angle my head that doesn't look horrible. I think that doesn't look too bad. I want it to, like, slightly face. Ever so... But the moment it faces somebody, it just looks bad. Actually, if I do it specifically, I need your face to go up just a little bit more. Just a little bit more. If I do... No. Little bit down. Where Where's a good spot to do this? Welcome to what I do every day when I upload a stream. There we go, that'll do, that's perfect. Yeah, I want them just like that. There we go. It doesn't quite fit the perspective I need, but... This is now a thumbnail stream. I'm just gonna... We're just gonna do this, why not? And then I throw them together. That is it. I do need to exit. I didn't want to open Steam. I wanted to exit Minecraft. Good game. Open File and Explorer, which is by far the easiest way to access your screenshots by anything. Just open the image where you need a screenshot from, and then right click, open file in File Explorer. Does OBS still hate Medibang Paint? Let me open what I need. There we go. Does it still hate it? It seems so. Lovely. Okay. Does window capture work for it? That's a video capture. Window capture. Medibang. There we go. Okay. Welcome to Medibang Paint. This is what I use. It is meant for manga, but we do not care. And then we need to copy photo. Paste. It's not going to let me copy like that. Hold on. Copy. And then I click back on Medibang Paint. Is it being a butt? Are you being a butt? Yes, you are. And then we open the other image we need. Copy. Paste. And then I move him in accordance where I want him. In A3, in this general composition. We turn up the tolerance, remove the background, and then I will adjust the other boy as needed. And for this case, I'm gonna zoom in a lot, so we're fully focused on the dispensers. And now we have this, and that is the thumbnail. I will actually move them over a little more because I want it to be more focused on what's going on over here, rather than anything else. So let's move it to this and this. If I can, I want to try and get that to sit in the 2/3. Sometimes if you zoom in just right, because if I can get a drip leaf right here, I can transform this just enough. I have a drip leaf and a dripstone on those thirds. There we go. Composition. This is what all my thumbnails are. This is the easiest I'm doing. Usually I'll add something or other to it, but... And it's the 27th? Yes. And then I name them the date TBN, which makes it really easy for me. There we go. Okay. I knew exactly what I want to do for the thumbnail, so I'm like, yeah, why not? Why not? Alright. If I'm ending up stream early, I might as well. Well, early. I've been going a lot longer, and then these have been pretty chill-ass streams. Alright. So before we really end off, let me find a Chade channel to raid. Chade. That is a weird habit of mine. I will want to say 2 words, and I will say both of them together instead. Let's see. Modded Minecraft Vault Hunters. Mind the World. No, that's an AI stream. Kiwi Pup. Proper Base. Perhaps we join them. You know, yeah, let's raid them. Kiwi_pup. Go back to my channel. There we go. Mute myself. There we go. They look like they'll be chill. So let's raid Kiwi. Pup. Pup. If you're watching on the VOD, have a good day. If you're watching on VOD channel, also have a good day. To both of you. Get some water, get some food. This also applies to the live viewers. Yeah. Have a good day, everybody. We are going to go out to raid. That was bad timing. Alright. We're gonna raid out. We're ending upstream. Rage is about to go now. I'm gonna raid out, so I'll see y'all over there. Yeah, everybody have a good day. I had to handle that real quick. Alright. Bye bye, VOD people. Have a good day. Have a good night.